Hello and how's it going, everyone? It is Skullzi here with the latest Bethesda news, rumors, and speculation. You're getting a stream and a video today. There's a lot to talk about. It seems like every day this Starfield inside the mansion murder mystery gets even more intriguing and random and low-key annoying a bit. Like for the first time ever, when my inside sources and my credibility are finally being recognized by the majority of the gaming and gaming journalist industry, all of a sudden everyone and their dog has some kind of inside line, inside source regarding Starfield. It seems like everyone wants to join on that insider credibility train for Starfield, and I do want to talk about all that today because we do have yet even more inside statements from some pretty credible insiders such as Jason Schreier. My eyes are huge. That means I'm hyped. Let's not waste any more time and get to today's information. And yes, like I said, Jason Schreier decided he wants to jump into this Starfield, a Game of Thrones insider statement train. And before I break down his statement, let me clarify what I think about all these inside statements. First of all, this is very indicative of just how hyped people are for Starfield, regardless of there being like no information about this game really. It seems like everyone wants to kind of get in on this, and at the same time, someone who has any skin in the game of gaming journalism or just YouTube news and stuff like that is seemingly trying to get into this Starfield inside statement stuff. There's people who are trying to make like random guesses, pretty much safe guesses, that way if these things do end up being true, they do get a little bit of credibility just based on a random guess. But my take is, I think there's a lot of bullshit going on out there. You can see my bullshit capacity meter t-shirt is already being worn right now to defend me from the majority of this, but I think a lot of people just kind of want to roll the dice, say something that's predictable, and maybe get some clout for possibly having some inside sources, because a lot of people are making like inside claims about sources that they've never talked about before, and it's making a huge mess right now in the Starfield speculation community, and it kind of sucks because there is a lot of credible stuff going down. Jeff Grubb, Jason Schreier, and hopefully, as I've proven to you all myself, I do try to give some inside statements about what I've heard, but at the same time, if I don't think something is credible enough to share with you all, or enough to say is more or less confirmed, I tell you all it's just something I've heard. But at the same time, regardless of any insider, whether it's me, Jason Schreier, or even Todd Howard's son, if someone doesn't work at Bethesda Game Studios, you can't take their word as confirmed. Only Bethesda can speak for Bethesda. Nobody can speak for Bethesda other than themselves, so if you want to entertain any of these inside statements, consider it just fun speculation, even if some of it is pretty credible. Don't consider anything confirmed unless it comes from Bethesda themselves, but that's basically my take on things. Like, even my own statements, just consider them speculation, no matter how confident I may seem. But if the majority of all these insiders are kind of saying something that's along the same lines, you can pretty much say that the majority of those people actually do have some kind of connection. A lot of more credible people are saying similar things, and now Jason Schreier is saying something somewhat credible, but there is a couple holes in this. But before I get to his statement, I want to follow up on a statement I talked about in the video like a couple days ago that I probably shouldn't have talked about. Luke Stevens, who has actually been correct by talking about the possible Microsoft and Bethesda acquisition before it ever happened. He kind of predicted it. He did make an inside statement saying Starfield has been ready for some time now and will definitely come out this year. A lot of credible people have told me this is 100% false, and even though Starfield may not be like not close to being finished, it's definitely not completely finished as of right now, and this statement in itself is false. And I'm kind of changing some of my predictions lately. As of like a couple weeks ago, it seems like all the insiders have shifted their dialogue to the game coming out most likely in 2022, and that's because a lot of our inside sources have kind of told us this, and I still maintained the hope for 2021 based on a couple things I've heard, but it seems like the statements have changed again in the last couple of days, and people are saying it most definitely will come out in 2022. A couple of my own personal sources have said that the game is going to come out in 2022 as well. So basically, unless Bethesda Game Studios summons a literal space wizard, there's no way the game is going to come out this year. You should more or less expect it to confirmed to come out next year, or even greater, even beyond 2022, unfortunately, as I'll get into in a second. However, let me be real with you all, my own sources have said 2022, so I doubt the game will come out beyond 2022. But Jason Schreier, jumping on all the Starfield insider train, says rumors like this keep floating around, but Starfield is nowhere near done. According to several people familiar with its development process, it'll be at E3, but the planned release date he's heard is way later than most people expect. Now, I have heard the game is going to be at E3. What I heard is the game will just have a trailer at E3, and we may get some more information at E3, but not a gigantic showcase as some people are hoping for. But one red flag with this statement is him saying that the game is nowhere near ready. From what I understand, the game was more or less kind of ready to be released in a somewhat smaller state of affairs, or with less content like a couple years ago, or at least in 2019 they planned on having the game potentially ready for late 2020 or early 2021, but they decided to push the game forward internally because the engine upgrades took a lot more work, and on top of all that, from what I remember, I believe even Fallout 76 affected the Starfield development timeline a bit. And then, of course, there's COVID. I can confirm a lot of Bethesda Game Studios developers were working from home for a long time, even going back as somewhat recently, and working on a major game as big as what Bethesda Game Studios makes, and a new franchise like Starfield, working from home really inhibits its process and its timeline. So with all this combined, Starfield may have been somewhat in a low-key ready process for a early 2021 release, but since then, I believe they decided to delay the game internally because not only is the timeline delayed due to COVID, but also because, from what I was told by one of my game dev sources, the game development process is like this. It's like an onion, kind of like Shrek. This isn't a Shrek meme, this is literally what they told me. In the core of the onion is the main mechanics of the game that you kind of have to have in the game and working in the game for the game to exist. Bethesda kind of pushed some of these gameplay elements into the upper layer of the onion, and because the game has been delayed, they're into like the third or fourth metaphorical layer of this onion. Basically, the TL Doctor, the actual human words for me to say that makes sense and isn't about some kind of onion fetish, is basically that Bethesda Game Studios kind of has a set guideline, set gameplay stuff they want to have in the game, but because it was internally delayed due to COVID and other stuff, they're now going to add a lot more gameplay mechanics they otherwise weren't going to have in the game at launch. What I want you to consider basically confirmed, or more or less what you should expect, is for the game to come out in 2022. I made a guess about the game coming out in Q1 of 2022. Some people are saying that was me saying the game was confirmed to come out in Q1 of 2022, but I followed up with that I did hear the game was coming out in 2022, long even before Jason Schreier made this tweet, but the Q1 of 2022 was my guess. I believe the game will most likely probably come out at the end of 2022 now. That makes the most sense just based upon all the different rhetoric of the launch and based upon Game Pass, because Microsoft will want to have enough content to put on Game Pass as time progresses to keep it like actually good and to have people want to actually use Game Pass, because if they have a bunch of good stuff at once but nothing a year from now, that's not as good as having like content and good games and good releases added to Game Pass day one over a period of time. So with that in mind, with all the Xbox launches this November, with my inside sources statements, and now with other people saying the game will come out in 2022, I say it's really safe to expect the game to come out in 2022. If you want my guess now, I would say Q4 of 2022, probably November, but I've heard the game is coming at 2022. I'm very, very confident about that, but my guess is Q4. So 2022 confirmed, more or less. My guess is Q4. So no one misquote me here. No one's saying I'm confirming the game is coming out in November of 2022. That's just my guess. People are already trying to say I confirmed Tom Cruise will be in the game just because I talked about a tweet Tom Cruise was tagged in by Bethesda. I don't think Tom Cruise is being in the game. I never confirmed that. Actually, quote me correctly, everyone. That drives me nuts, but we do have one other inside source to talk about here, and that's from Jeff Grubb. Jeff Grubb also adds to all this all of a sudden today. It seems like a lot of insiders today are saying Starfield will come out in 2022, when I said days ago it would. Weird flex, but Jeff Grubb said that he heard the game is about a year off and it will probably just be at some point in 2022. But then he followed up with that tweet by saying that it's his best guess that the game will come out in 2022, but he's not even sure if it will come out next year. It might come out later than that, more or less, judging by what his tweet is right here. And it seems like what I can gather from this is people are hearing the game isn't going to come out this year. People are hearing it might come out in 2022, but a lot of insiders are trying to play it safe right now and say the game could come out beyond that. Because to be honest, the game could get internally delayed again because if something isn't officially announced and if insiders are just talking about inside information, the main reason Bethesda isn't officially announcing any of this is because it could be changed internally and they don't want to change something they've officially said. That's a risk you take when you try to pay attention to inside statements or even make inside statements like this. The TL Doctor is a lot of insiders are hearing the game will come out in 2022. Some are trying to play it safe and say it may come out later, but based on what I heard, it'll probably come out in 2022, most likely Q4 of 2022. I also heard we may just get a trailer at E3. We might not get a huge 20-minute showcase. We might just get like a 5-minute trailer with another 5-minute like little tiny follow-up of information with small bits of information about Starfield at E3 this year. But I did hear we should get a projected release date officially announced at E3 this year as well. We might also get some more like small pieces of Starfield information in the forms of random interviews over the summer and the rest of the year as well, and I also heard Microsoft has purchased advertisement time for Starfield as of 2021, so with that in mind, it seems like maybe Bethesda Game Studios is going to actually market Starfield a lot differently than they have before, because I don't think Microsoft would purchase advertisement time just for like a 2-minute cinematic of Starfield, especially if the game isn't going to come out until 2022. I believe we might get more information than we're used to early on in the marketing process, and Starfield will not go the route of Cyberpunk 2077, but we'll definitely have more marketing than we're used to. That's just my take on things, but that basically finishes up everything I wanted to talk about in today's video. As always, if you enjoy the content, if you're hyped for Starfield, be sure to give a video a thumbs up, subscribe, and turn notifications on, and as always, huge shout out and much appreciation to the following amazing people for going above and beyond to support the channel and bring you content like this. If you want to get a permanent future video shout out at the end of every single one of my videos, you can support the channel over on Ko-fi, Patreon, or here on YouTube as an exclusive channel member. I am updating this list at the end of the week, so if you do support the channel now, you will get added to this list at the end of this week. Links for all this and more are down in the description below, and as always, thank you for watching. Be sure to tune in next time. We're less than a month away from another Todd Howard time.
It just works.